Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. The following is an interview that we just wrapped up. Not so much an interview perhaps as a meeting with Mason Hamilton and Michael James Dixon, where we talk all things cheerleading. I had some different questions for the guys, and we got into the questions that you guys had and posted on our Instagram stories. I'm going to warn you, it's a long one. Between us we can definitely talk, and we could have gone on so much longer. If you want to jump ahead, backwards, and find things that are of interest to you, you can look down in the video description. There's going to be timings on there that you can skip to for particular topics, so you can jump in and out if you don't have a full, 2 hours to sit and enjoy the whole video. If you do, go for it. Grab a cup of tea or a coffee or anything else, and maybe some snacks, and sit down and spend some time with us discussing all kinds of things. It was a great interview. We had an absolute blast talking, and we got really into so many different things. I think you guys are going to love it, and you're going to find a lot of valuable stuff in there. So I'll stop talking so that I can start talking, I guess. Enjoy.
Yeah, last one.
All right. Hey guys, welcome. Thanks for joining me today. It's good to see you both. So we've got lots of stuff to talk about. It's going to be a fun discussion. I'm sure we'll try and keep everything short and to the point as best we can, but who knows the directions we're going to go off on here. Okay, so first things first, for anyone who doesn't know, just introduce yourselves. Tell us a little bit about your backgrounds, teams you've been on, and what you're doing. Well, yeah, your background, really, a little bit about you guys. We'll go to Mason first.
Okay, I am Mason Hamilton. I am 25 years old, just turned. I've been cheerleading for about 10 to 11-ish years, and throughout that time, been lucky enough to cheer at a couple different gyms in the UK, Rising Stars, Unity All Stars, and then luckily enough was able to go cheer out in Miami, Florida at Top Gun All Stars, which was kind of the start of my cheerleading career. Since then, I've come back home, homegrown in the UK now, and own my own gym, Airborne All Stars. I also own my own choreography business, is Mason Hamilton Coaching Choreography. And yes, since this lockdown, we've kind of just been growing the business and just interacting on Zoom and getting all that kind of stuff done to help out the community. So that's about it, really. Pretty boring, to be honest.
I'm sure lots of people won't think that's particularly it's going to be interesting to a lot of people.
Yeah.
Michael, let's go to you.
Cool. I'm Michael James Dixon. I have also been cheering just over a decade, so 10, 11-ish years. I've been on a whole bunch of teams in the UK, but some of the bigger teams I've been on Coventry Dynamite, which was amazing. And then I was also on Unity Black for a few years, and was also lucky enough to have been competed with Team England, co-ed premier. So for the first year that we went up to that level, which was amazing. I work for a couple of different gyms in the UK, Angels Dance Academy, GCA, based in Gloucestershire. And I also own my own coaching and choreography business, Max Out Cheer and Tumble. And have been really lucky enough to work with lots of teams all over the UK, particularly in this period in time where we don't have to leave our house to do so. So via Zoom, I've got to work with probably even more teams than I would ever normally get to work with, which has been pretty awesome, pretty cool.
Excellent. I guess I should say I've had the pleasure variously of coaching both of you at some point over the years. I'll call it a pleasure. I'll leave it at that. Two guys, you guys are both guys that I know pretty well and have worked with professionally and coaching wise in the past, so it's great to have you guys joining me to talk a lot of stuff today. So Mike, you were just talking about Zoom classes and all the online stuff, everything we're doing at the moment, which obviously all three of us have been doing a lot of that, working with different teams, doing different things. And I know that's a big thing for people at the moment. So what I want to talk about first, one of the questions I've had a lot is, obviously people are really interested right now in how to keep their online training fun and interesting. There's a lot of Zoom fatigue out there. People that's kind of done everything. And for us, we're going in and doing something specific usually. So I think a lot of the time just having somebody different is a big thing that people are using to keep their classes interesting. But I just want to, talk to you guys about your thoughts on these online classes, that format, what you've done, what you've sort of found through going to that different format, and any advice that you have on for people on how to stay motivated really at this point with the online classes. Mike, I'll go to you first.
Sure. So obviously Zoom is something that's like completely different. I don't think any cheer coach gets into cheerleading with the expectation that you have to teach it remotely. So it's not necessarily a skill set that anyone has previously developed. It's something that we've had to learn over the last year on the fly really quickly. And so I can understand why it's been tough for a lot of people to kind of deconstruct what we do into a way that you can teach it where athletes can not only do it safely at home, but also effectively. And as you say, how do you keep that interesting? For me, what I've tried to do, and like you say, we have the opportunity, all three of us have the opportunity to go and teach specific things. So we can really spend a lot of time thinking about how we can approach those different things and what areas we want to look at and really focus in on that. Whereas if you're teaching your regular team, you've probably tried to do that, and now you got to teach something different and then something different and try to keep it fresh every single time. We might see teams regularly, but we're not seeing them 3 times a week unless there are personal teams. So it's definitely tough, and I have that same struggle. I know Mason and I have spoken about this before with the teams that we coach. Like, it's the same struggle. Like, how are we trying to keep it fresh? Even our athletes are getting that kind of Zoom fatigue with us because they see us however many times a week. But then on the flip side, we go work with teams who never see us, and they're super excited about it because it's just a fresh face. In terms of keeping it interesting, I think there's a lot of different things you can do. You just have to be creative about how you're approaching these drills and the conditioning and the exercises, and trying to break it down into different ways. So what I've personally been trying to do lately is, whether we're looking at stunting or tumbling, jumps, I've been trying to kind of think of different ways to work those muscles and work those motions that you may never normally approach, but still condition those muscles and those exercises, and then trying to kind of make that an enjoyable thing, make it maybe a little bit of a competition, a little bit of a game, a little bit of a challenge, because that is really why so many people get into cheerleading, right? You have the performance and then you have the competition side of it. And so if we can bring that to the home, then athletes start to remember, oh yeah, this is my competitive side. This is what I like to do. And then obviously just learning new things is the other side of it. Like, if we can make athletes approach a skill or approach a technique in a way that they never would have ever thought of, they feel like they're progressing because it's something new. Even if it's a drill, like if we're doing a shoulder drill, for example, for back handsprings, you can have them do, a shoulder pop drill where they're just going out from standing out to a press up, just pushing through their shoulders, which they may have done in the gym a million times. If you have them try to do that in a bridge position, they may have never done that before, but they're still working the same muscle. And so for them, they're like, oh my God, I've never done this. But for you as a coach, you're like, okay, I know that I'm still giving them what they need, but we're also adding that element of creativity and fun. So it's just really trying to approach things in a different way, that I think is how we can keep these classes fresh and effective.
Cool. Yeah, I know for me, I've certainly had to, it's been an interesting challenge from a coaching point of view, finding different ways that can be effective in that different format. And I've it's actually been really great for me from a creativity point of view, in terms of, okay, I've got to come up with 9 drills to work tumbling tonight with this class that can all do with no equipment on the floor in their house. So it's really challenging as a coach, which is nice. If you've been doing it for a year, it's maybe less nice at this point, trying to come up with that all the time, which I think is where we're struggling. And it's difficult because it is, like you say, maybe the two things that people enjoy most about the sport, or two of the biggest things that people enjoy about the sport, is stunting and performance. And that's two things that we almost, we can do some choreography and performance things. We can't really stunt in a real sense. I know we're all doing drills and training exercises, but it is taking away those two things. And that, I think in particular, has been so tough for a lot of people. Mason, let's come to you. Anything you want to say?
Just touching into what you guys have both just said, it has been it's been quite difficult to, even for like ourselves, there's been so many days, and I'm sure that a million other coaches can agree with me, where as the coach you wake up and you just not got that spark and that motivation to just sit on the computer and have to engage throughout 5-6 hours of just your own kids, and seeing those kids every week and making sure that you're doing the best that you can to make their time on Zoom the best it can be, is really kind of getting to that point of really strenuous and really kind of hard to do every single time. What I've started to notice that has been quite beneficial for me, and been working in those times where I've really felt that I can't drag myself out of bed and get all my admin work done and then get on Zoom all day, is really kind of slow myself down. I've noticed that whenever I'm struggling to actually put a Zoom class together, it's always when I'm trying to ransack it full of different drills, different ideas, make sure I've got a time frame which we can get everything done. And for me, I think more so now, the kids just want a fresh face to see. The kids just want a new voice, and something else for them just to work towards in terms of a remotivation to get up and do the actual class. I've always found that slowing down has really helped me pick up and find my groove again. And what I mean by that is just really break down your classes. If you know that you're doing a tumbling day, you don't have to cover a plethora of different drills. You can really break down that class into what you want the kids to learn and then what you want them to take away from the class. And in that last part of the session, I always kind of give the kids some homework or just something for them to think about. I always, and you guys know me, I taught for England. So in my classes, I know I always bombard kids with loads of different things and loads of different ideas and mindsets to learning. And so for me, I know that once that kid gets off Zoom, they're probably on TikTok, they're probably on Snapchat, they're probably on Instagram for hours. But if I can get them for just maybe 30 minutes after the class to keep continuing their own learning, I feel that engages the kids more to want to come back to a class and not necessarily do something different, pick up from where they left off. We know that in cheerleading and in Zoom, in actual physical classes, we won't make miracles happen in one day. We need that kind of consistency. And if each time we get on Zoom, bearing in mind that kid has probably gone through a completely different day than they did the day before outside of a Zoom class, if we're just trying to bombard them with new things over and over and over again, they're probably just going to be overwhelmed in the fact that they have to learn instead of feeling that same consistency that we had in practice. Okay, well, last week we worked on double downs. Now we're going to work on double downs from one leg. Now we're going to work on double downs from extension. And that consistency and translation from gym back into Zoom is where I really found not just the kids' engagement be a lot better. I found myself really be more relaxed and comfortable teaching Zooms as a coach. Really just giving myself that time and just engaging with the kids a bit more, not just me teaching 1,000,001 drills and just expecting the kids to do it and then leave again. So it's just about finding that kind of comfortableness within what you know and not what you're trying to just teach the kids. If you know that you know what you're talking about, you don't need to cram it all into one session. Take your time. That's just one of the biggest things I've learned. And it took me, I'm sure the coach, like you guys can agree, coaches really kind of confiding us to really make their dreams happen with these Zooms and really try and get them out of that rut that they're in. But for the most part, and I know I felt like this, December was a killer. December was a killer for me, and that was when I learned all of these things that I've just been speaking about, and it was really an eye-opener for me that I got that motivation again, and I made sure that I wasn't just falling into that loop of Zoom fatigue. I needed to get myself out of it, not just for the gyms, but for the kids and the coaches too, because without them, I definitely wouldn't be getting up and doing it every day. And I know it's the other way around too. So that's kind of what I've been doing at the moment. And I think it's been working. I hope it's been working. We'll have to find out after all this.
Yeah, it kind of, I mean, it's kind of one of those golden coaching rules. If you're not motivated, they won't be motivated. You know,
Amen.
Whether you're in the gym or you're on Zoom, you know, I think we all know as coaches, sometimes you walk in and you've had a bad day, or you're, you know, for whatever reason, exactly the same. And half the time we don't give our athletes credit for this. They might have had a bad day. We want them to be on their game all the time. We expect that. So it is really important to do that. Yeah. Regardless of the format you're on. I think it's interesting as well. Like part of the problem is, you know, we never knew how long this thing is going to go on. We still don't. If we could have, you know, let's go back a year when this all kicked off and we suddenly started on Zoom. If they'd said, yeah, this is a year, I would have sat down and go, okay, here's 1 year's worth of development plan.
Yes.
All these
Absolutely.
But we've never done that, because it's all like this might be 2 weeks. It might be 10 years. I mean, who knows?
Yeah. According to Boris Johnson, it was going to be 4 weeks and then we were back to normal. And then
Well, it was going to be 2 weeks initially.
Yeah.
Let's not get into this.
Going on what you said, it is exactly what that. It's exactly that. We all expected as coaches and athletes to really invest as much time as we could into Zoom in such a short amount of space, not realizing that a year later we would still be here going in a full circle. So it is a difficult one, and I'm sure for all the other coaches out there, like, we're all feeling the same thing, and hopefully we can still do what we're doing. One thing I have noticed is that it's becoming a bit of a just jump on my class, like, come along. And that's the great thing that I've started to see, is that everyone is just helping each other out just for the sake of helping each other out. And it is a great thing to see that I'll have 3 different teams on Zoom at the same time, and it would have only been one coach that would have messaged me to say to book the class. And it's amazing to see that it doesn't matter anymore when everyone's kind of doing it for each other, opposed to looking after themselves and fending for themselves. So the community's really come together, and as sucky as it's been, it has been, in hindsight, kind of a really great thing for us to be doing all together at the same time. Yeah,
that's been cool to see. And I've noticed as well in the last month or so in particular, there's a lot of new and different stuff people are starting to offer, like crazy. Some of it has nothing to do with cheerleading at all.
I love that
Zoom session.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's really cool to see. And the other upside, if you like, if you can call it that, is it's giving a lot of entrepreneurs, perhaps, the opportunity to do different things and build a profile. And, you know, I think just the amount of teams I've worked with, new teams that I hadn't had as clients before, maybe, and perhaps better looking at it from the other side. If you're a team that wouldn't normally have the resources to bring in 10 different coaches in the course of a season, now it actually, it is giving you that platform, if you've got, some kind of resources, in a much less costly way, to bring in multiple different influences to your athletes. So there is that upside there. And, it's something, I certainly hope is going to have a carryover after this whole thing's done. It's part of the reason I'm building some of these different formats, that people, why not? We don't necessarily have to fly somebody in to come and work with our kids. I can get them on Zoom now. I don't know about you guys, but I'm thinking that, is something that's still going to be relevant once all
I've got plans to be doing Zoom choreography. I actually did not long ago.
I'm trying to figure that out too.
honestly, it's a lot, because you can't physically move the kid or the athlete anywhere. Not that we could post lockdown when we were actually allowed back in the gym, but it really made me have to relearn how to coach again. I was so used to being able to be Sally and the back again. Sally and Susie are back, guys.
Not those two.
Move to water panel, and it's so much harder to have to kind of break down and dissect how you actually coach. And for me, it's all been a bit of a learning curve. And Zoom has really played the devil's advocate here, and has really helped me kind of relearn what I needed to relearn. And I'm sure it has for you guys as well. We always get into that rut of, we know what we're doing, and that consistency of how we coach, that Zoom being thrown into the mix on top of teaching what we teach every single day has really been an eye-opener. And it's really been quite refreshing, to be honest, as well.
Yeah, on this note, because there's a couple of things that I just wanted to speak on there, but just on that point that you've just made, Mason, like, although this is not ideally what we would like to be doing, the kind of silver lining around it is that it really is, and I've said this to other coaches and I've said this to athletes, like, this is an opportunity where we can kind of address all the things that we maybe just rush over. So like for me, and I had a bit of a different experience because I actually injured myself right at the beginning of the whole COVID period. Like, I tore my Achilles. So I was actually, rough injury. So I actually was like laid out on the couch, couldn't walk, couldn't demonstrate anything. And I was still having people like want me to come and coach Zoom sessions. And so I'm like, right.
I was stuck in Australia on the beach, so
yeah, right, okay. So I was like, how do I approach this now? Where, because I've always been someone who's very much like, oh, I'll just show you what I mean. I'll show you the motion, show you the movement. I'll move you where I need you to go. And I was like, right, I got to do this whole thing just explaining it. And I had to really think about how I communicate with my athletes, how I could be clearer in my explanations, and describe everything, which in the few moments where we have got back into the gym, has obviously translated to that. So now, when I don't necessarily feel that I need to go out on the floor and show an athlete exactly what to do, because I have the communication skills which have been built or remembered because of Zoom. And so that's, as a coach, is really beneficial in the one respect. That's the maybe silver lining. And for athletes, what I've said is it's an opportunity for them to work on all the areas that they also would not work on in the gym. So, we spend a lot of time obviously learning how to do these skills. And I think a lot of it is very much like, it's, as much as technique is super important, at the end of the day, we have a score sheet. We've got to hit the score sheet. We need to hit the big skills. If an athlete can do a skill safely and reasonably well, if their technique's perfect or not quite perfect, does it matter in the grand scheme of things? Well, we can make sure that we fix those problems now. We can, make sure that, when our athletes are doing their back handsprings, they keep their shoulders here rather than here. All the small things which mean that as they progress, they actually just become stronger and better. So it's kind of like this whole Zoom thing, although it seems like a burden at times, is kind of a gift in a way. And I guess that it's hard to see that after a year. But if we now just make the assumption that, this might stick around for a while, whether we can go back into the gym or not, we might have periods where we can't, we might have still classes that run online. If we start planning ahead and thinking about, even now, it's not too late for other coaches to start thinking about structuring our sessions. Okay, let's set progressions. Let's set progressions and work on these things. Then that will carry over into the gym. Whether we get back in or not, you can take it off Zoom, you can bring it to the gym. And we're using this time wisely. We're helping our athletes. And like Mason said, it's actually better for us as coaches because we know we're helping them progress. And it's easier for us mentally, like we can go, okay, we have a structure, we have a plan. We're not having to try and throw 11 new things at them every session. And then for athletes, they're like, okay, so last week I did this, and now we're going to do this and progress to this. And they can see that they are getting stronger, or they're getting fitter, or they're getting better. So I think, those are kind of, that's kind of the beauty of this period in time, even though it obviously
like
seems...
It's the off season that we've been complaining for years that we don't have.
That we don't have.
Right.
Routines now, we know as coaches, modern routines are so demanding. Most of what we end up doing is just teaching routines more than we get to teach skills. So
yes,
it's definitely, there is an upside to it if you take enough steps back to be able to see it. Let's change tack. Let's go a different direction. We'll try and keep this a little more quick fire.
Okay.
Bogged down. We don't want to talk COVID and things for too long. So quick question for both of you. You're both athletes who've gotten to a very high level domestically, internationally, Mason in your case. I mean, Michael too, internationally in terms of Team England and competing at Worlds, both competed at Worlds level. give me a piece of advice, and I'm throwing this at you guys live. I didn't prep you on this. Give me a piece of advice that you would give to athletes. You know, we'll talk about athletes rather than coaches right now, in terms of how getting to the top level of the sport, or reaching your top level in the sport. Obviously, not everybody is ever going to make it to that elite international level. But a piece of advice from your experience as an athlete. We'll go to Mason first.
Okay. Great one. I will always stand by it for the rest of my life. And it came from Coach Kristen from Top Gun, my coach on TGLC, and also the owner of the program. Really, really stuck with me. I'd never actually heard the saying till I moved there, and it became our motto, and it became our kind of team ethos. And from there, I've traveled it through all aspects of my cheerleading career since. And it's work smart, not hard. Really simple.
I was about to say that.
Say work smart, not hard. It's as simple as that. I ended up injuring myself really early in the game when I was about 15, 16, from trying to do what is actually quite popular and actually the norm right now. And it was trying to push myself to a higher level than what I needed to be at the age I actually was. A lot of things that I see these days, and a lot of kind of burnouts from kids, always come from those younger athletes that were super, super talented at a really young age, at a really high level. And by the time they actually could have gotten to their peak, and more so the longevity of their actual cheerleading career, they've already burned themselves out and they're out of the sport. I learned the same work smart, not hard, and it massively affected me. And I learned it in a lot of difficult situations. I learned with that saying, I don't need to go into the gym a million times and throw a million doubles just to be able to perfect my double. I don't need to go into the gym and do my back handspring full up a million times to be able to work my back handspring full up. A lot of the time, I literally put my hands up to kids that are gym rats and spend their days in the gym. However, I learned, for me personally, the best way for me to progress, the most efficient way that I progressed, was to really slow down and think about how I was trying to get to where I was getting, and not just trying to get where I was getting. I'm sure people have, and you guys especially, first-hand experience, will have seen me on my days where I was just in the gym, just going hardcore, and the next day I wouldn't be able to do a single thing. Now, when I cheered in America, I realized really quickly that is not the way that I could do things. When I went from TGLC to YOSO, to Restricted 5 to 005, I learned that the more that I was practicing, the less impacts that I needed to be putting on my body outside of practice time. It's the coach's job to coach, and it's my job to make sure I'm understanding why I'm doing the things that I'm doing, not just doing the things that I'm being told to do. And that's where I really learned as an athlete how to look after my body and how to be efficient in the way that I'm learning. I just went through days where I was like, yeah, coach, you told me to do that. I did it 20 million times. That's the thing with kids. They will exaggerate everything you tell them to do, especially those kids that want to be good at a really young age. You tell them to do it once, you know they're going to do it 20 million times. And for me, it was when I started to really slow down that I started to see the benefits of my tumbling, my performance, my actual stress levels started to come down, because I realized that I didn't need to land or throw that skill and land it perfectly to know that I was going to land it in my routine and do my job as an athlete. Since that day, since I heard that saying in 2015, it has stuck with me forever. Google it if you want a full definition of it, because I am not the greatest of explaining what it means. But guys, honestly, it was a life changer. It really helped me understand what I was doing, and not just, again, doing what I was doing for the sake of it. So if I can give anyone a piece of advice, it is to work smart and not hard, guys. You will get to where you need to get to. It's all about the journey, not the destination, as the saying goes as well. So I'll pass it over to Michael.
Bringing all the cliches out.
Look at me!
Get them all in.
I'm Oracle Mason today.
Yeah, I mean, the point is, of course, it's, we don't want to discourage anyone from working hard. That has great value too. Not saying you shouldn't work hard, but it's about having the right strategy behind that work. Yeah, just doing something 1,001 times is not necessarily the best way. You know, you've got to factor in other things as well, and you know, coaching and recovery and all these other things that need to go into it.
Yeah, it's also like you said as well, like we've been speaking about previously on Zoom about how can we translate what we do in the gym into a Zoom environment. And even things, and I say it all the time, you don't need to, as a flyer, put your leg behind your head and do a bow and arrow and stretch that bow and arrow as hard as you can to improve that body position. It's all about finding the things and the format to make what you want, or the bigger picture of things. I think Zoom has really helped. Not just the coaches understand that, but the athletes understand they do not need to do the skill to master the skill. Drills work just as great. That translates onto Zoom and in the gym environment as well. So hopefully, again, not going back into COVID, but hopefully Zoom has really helped kind of break that down for athletes as well, and understand that those smaller things are really what make that bigger picture work and happen for us. Over to Michael.
Yeah, Michael, Mason having stolen your thing.
I know,
but I'm glad you know what about it now. So
I know, but I'm glad you said it, because actually, so funny that you should say that. I was going to say that exact same phrase, because that's something that I also have very much kind of lived my life by, which is, you know, work smart, not hard. Now, obviously, when you got to, you know, working, like Ant said, working hard is not a bad thing. It doesn't mean don't work hard. But and Mason just explained this, like, you don't need to throw, if you're talking about, let's say, tumbling, you don't need to throw that tumble skill 50 times, because all that's going to do is, like, once you get past however many, whatever your limit is, let's say 10 for argument's sake.
Mine's 1 and I'm done.
1. So for me, like, legit, genuinely, like, for me, it's like 3. Like, I do 3 good ones, and I know past that point, like, it's not going to be as good. Every time after that, it's not going to be as good. So rather than throw those extra ones and potentially just impact your body harder, injure yourself, you can go away and go, okay, so my shape wasn't great. Let me go condition my shape and my core. Or I need a little bit more height. Let me go work on my legs and my jump. And you are addressing the issue in your whatever skill you're working on without having to put yourself as much of a risk. That's working smart, not hard.
There's the Google definition right there.
There you go. So that's, and I think that's something that's a lot of athletes don't realize. It's and I definitely, it's something that I've had to learn as I've got older. Now being like an older athlete in cheer, I don't know why I did this. I am an older athlete in cheer. Being an older athlete in cheer who suffered some injuries, like, I have to now think about really how I train. And I know that once I start feeling my body get tired, I'm like, you know what, I'm risking it now. I need to take a step back, but I still want to work on it. What drills can I do safely? So that's really a really good piece of advice that I would pass on to any athletes, like Mason said. But I'll give you something else as well. It's really easy to get discouraged if you're working on progressions and you stagnate. Progress is not linear as such. You're not going to constantly get better and better and better and better. You're going to get better, and then it's going to stop, and then you're going to get better, and then it's going to stop. If you keep pushing yourself, you will eventually progress. You just don't know when that's going to be, but it will happen. And so to stop yourself from getting discouraged, it's really important to try and find the enjoyment in everything that you do. Okay, the reason that you're doing it in the first place, like, why do you enjoy doing the tumbles? Why do you enjoy doing the stunts? Why do you enjoy cheerleading? Like, what's the purpose? Why do you enjoy it? And then you got to try and infuse that enjoyment into your training, so that in those moments where you feel like you're maybe not progressing as quickly as you want, you're still enjoying it. And then when you do hit that progress, it's even better. You know, it takes you to that next level. So you're always having fun, you're always enjoying what you're doing, and you're getting better while you do it. And I think for most, most top athletes, that's kind of the difference maker between them having a long-lasting career and then burning out. Is, you know, once you lose that enjoyment, it's just not worth it. So if you can keep that enjoyment, you're going to be able to keep going and keep going and keep going for as long as you want.
Definitely. Yeah, I think rolls nicely to mine, because mine would be get your head right. For me,
As bluntly as possible, yeah. I agree.
the putting aside the physical stuff, obviously you've got to train correctly and get yourself where you need to be with your skills. But for me, the thing I've always said is that the difference between top elite level athletes and those that could be top elite level athletes is all in that mental game. Whether you have the toughness, whether you can deal with the pressure, and that's a learning process for any, especially a young athlete, to get that. But that's something that gets neglected all too often. I think you get worried about, the classic is tumbling skills. Like, if I have the tumbling skills, then I can make a world's team. Well, yeah, but if you're too fragile to do them when it counts, they're not much use to anyone. So developing that mental game for me, I think, is the biggest piece of advice that I could give to an athlete who wants to reach the upper echelons. Let me change slightly. Similar kind of theme, but I wanted to throw at you guys as two young guys, kind of, building your own businesses and your own pathways in the sport. What advice would you give to a young coach or a young professional who wants to build a career in cheer? Michael, we'll go back to you first.
Work hard and put yourself out there. Like, honestly, I remember when I started trying to, build this business and get out and do, camps with different teams. Like, I had been coaching for a little while with the team that I worked for, and I'd been an athlete for a while, but I wouldn't say I was at a point where people necessarily really knew me in the cheer industry. And so I literally spent so much time sending out just feelers, being like, hey, this is who I am. Like, if you're interested in any workshops or camps, this is my details. I would love to come work with you. I remember literally looking at competition lists and just emailing or messaging every team on that list, which, now, fortunately, I've been doing this long enough that I don't really have to do that now. Teams contact me because I've put myself out there and I worked super hard. But it's a graft at the beginning. You definitely have to be willing to put in the hours. You have to be willing to speak to teams, make contacts, and then have those contacts potentially not book you. You can't get discouraged if you put time in and that you don't get the result that you want, because obviously not all teams have the resources, and teams also will want to know what they're getting, and if they don't know you, they might not realize that. So it is really hard at the beginning, but you just got to be willing to put in that time and do whatever it takes, put in the hours. The other side of it is, and this is for if you're starting out as a coach in a gym, or you're starting your own business, you've also got to put in the time to learn your craft. I've been doing this a while now. I go and work with teams all over the country, teaching various skill sets and different drills. And hey, you can do these skills like this, or you can structure your trainings like this. But I still watch loads of videos of teams. I still follow loads of people on different sites, speak to loads of different coaches. And I'm the annoying kind of person who will message you if you're a coach and I like your drill. I'll message you out of the blue and be like, hey, take some time to tell me about that. I'm that guy because I still feel like I've got so much to learn. The more I learn, the more I realize I've got to learn. So you got to be willing to always progress your own knowledge and put in the hours to do that. If you don't, you're going to get to a point where, whether you think you know it all or not, it's going to get hard for you. It's going to get really hard, and your athletes will kind of switch off to that because they'll be like, oh, we've heard it before. You've got to keep and whether you change your techniques or not, you might do loads of research and realize that the technique you started with was the best technique for you to teach, but then you're sure of that because you know that you've seen all of these other ways, and you're like, actually, I still like this one the best because of this reason. You are justified in your approach. So it gives you that level of confidence, and athletes will trust that. They'll sense that and they'll trust that, and they'll be like, okay, I buy into what you're saying.
Yeah.
So it's really about time.
Pick up another cliche. It's if you want to be a good teacher, you got to be a good student. We're getting them all in today.
Yeah, I was gonna say, what's going on? We've got a little book going on. We may as well write one while we're at it.
Hey.
I think just touching, especially tying into what Michael's just said, For me, personally, I came back into the cheerleading industry from America in a kind of different light. I didn't necessarily have to put myself out there so much. Once I said that I was back, it was like the floodgates opened. However, the same thing started to happen. I started to realize that as I was going into different gyms, I didn't have to so much put in the work to stay in communication and do all of that. I knew that they were going to come back. And one thing that got me into a really bad situation was that I realized that word of mouth was the most important thing for me. With that being said, I was a ripe age of, I think, 19 when I moved back to England. I had just come back from the absolute time of my life and realized that being in high demand was something that could be great for you, but could also be a detriment to you if you're not careful of the way that you're doing things and just the delivery of what you are doing. I remember that I was so fully booked at one point that when I was going into these gyms, yes, I was teaching the technical side of things. Yes, I was doing my job and teaching, but I wasn't giving the best delivery that I could give to those kids because I was just burned out from doing so much. Word of mouth goes a long way. And it's one thing that I've learned. It does not matter how good you are at your job. If the delivery of what you're teaching, no matter how good you are, isn't there, like Michael said before, those kids will switch off in 2 seconds. If you are not confident in what you know and the way that you're teaching, an example is just even things like you'll never see me with a notebook in my hand as I'm speaking, because I don't want those kids to feel like I'm just looking down at my work and just reading it. It needs to look natural. It needs to look kind of like it's a walk in the park for you. And I've gotten to a point now where it is literally, people are like, how does your brain do that? And I'm like, honestly, don't know. But it is. It's the word of mouth that has helped me, not my talent, not how good I am, my delivery, my communication with the coaches and the athletes, my relationships with the coaches and the athletes, and my consistency with always being there for those coaches and athletes in gyms. You can be as talented as you want, and you can go and give a great routine to someone. But as Michael said before, if you don't have that relationship with those coaches or those people that you're working with, they might just not want you again. They might want to look in other places. And for me, that was one thing that really hit home was your talent only takes you so far. It's everything you give past that experience and what you're giving to that gym is what really ties you in with them and what really gets you going somewhere and really helps you build your establishment, your business, whatever you're trying to do, your coaching role. I started off straight off the bat, coming back from America, coaching a junior level 1 team. That's all I got given to me. And one really big thing that I learned along the way, and this goes for all of my talented young coaches out there that are high level athletes, you are not necessarily, just because you're a high level athlete, always going to be giving the highest level teams. And one thing that you can do as a great coach, and what will show you that you are a great coach and working towards being one, is really putting in the work for the difficult times and the kind of sticky situations. If you can prevail through doing something that you don't necessarily want to do, or something that wasn't necessarily in your eyesight or journey, you're showing that you can be flexible. You're showing yourself that you're diverse and you can work with a million different things. And for coaches, and especially gym owners that are really protective of their kids and their athletes, it's one thing that I really noticed that you will be loved for. It's just getting back into the gym, working with the prep level 1 and also the world level 5, and giving the same experience to those kids, no matter what level they are and what ability they are as well. So yeah, just word of mouth, touching on back on what Michael said. It's just the final thing, like the icing on the cake almost. If you're good at what you do and the word of mouth is there and you are just giving a genuine kind of ability, you're really getting to places. You're really going to get to where you want to get, a lot smarter than working harder as well. So
I think whether we're talking about as a coach in a gym, or we're talking, like if you have ambitions of being a choreographer or teaching camps or whatever, obviously we're, pretty relating to what we do. It's all fairly similar sort of setup and field. Yeah, you got to be humble and you got to be ready to graft. It's one thing I've certainly seen as someone who has that business and has brought in different younger coaches, to work for me, is it's not all glamorous. There's this expectation that, yeah, I'm
Oh,
gonna be a choreographer because I'm super talented, or I'm gonna teach this stuff because I'm a great athlete and I'm gonna get to go and work with, you know, world's teams and spread my knowledge. Great, love the enthusiasm, but no, probably you're going to be doing lots of level 1 stunt technique clinics.
yeah.
You know, and that's important too. And you got to love what you do as much as possible. And you got to put in the work and really graft to get to those higher levels. And not everybody is always patient enough to do this.
Yeah,
it's long hours. If you want to be a choreographer, I mean, we all know you're talking 8 hours of choreography in a day or more. Sometimes, you know, you're strung out, you're tired, the kids are strung out and tired, and and you haven't eaten for 2 days, and you've driven 100 miles to get there, and you know, it's not all sunshine and rainbows. There's a lot.
It's not.
No, it's really not. I think, just touching as well, one final thing, I was just trying to find a video, just because it's really funny that you've said about the whole time frame thing. A video of me making up dance choreography at 3:22 in the morning the other night. But one final thing as well, and it took me a while to learn this, especially when you're an athlete turning coaching choreographer. I always held myself to the highest standards of an athlete. If I was in the gym being and doing my skills, I made sure that I was doing them to the best of my ability every single time. However, when I started to become a coach and choreographer, that then translated into me not wanting to ever make a mistake. And that is one thing that was a really big misunderstanding for me, is that to learn, you have to make those mistakes. You have to almost not be afraid to go wrong. There's multiple times where I've gone into gyms with this mindset that, oh my God, what I'm teaching is going to be amazing. This is going to score so well. The score sheets come back and they do not reflect what I thought was going to happen. And the biggest thing that you could do is take away from that and learn that you have just got more to learn. And there's so much more variety of what you're actually trying to do than what just you thought was good. It really helps you expand your knowledge in the sport. I've learned so many different styles, and not just techniques in specific like stunting and tumbling, but styles of dance choreography, motion placement, and even more so coaching as well. There's so many times you can make the mistake of watching let's say a YouTube documentary of a really high level team and seeing the way that coach coaches their kids, and thinking that as a coach and choreographer, that is then the expectation of what you're supposed to be doing. It's not true. It doesn't always work, and you will make mistakes in not just your technical side of how you coach, but also the delivery of what you're teaching as well. And for me, really being accountable, and like what you said before about being humble, about those kind of situations is really what will help you grow within the sport, and also help you expand your knowledge on top of that as well. So that's just to tie into what we've just said, that hopefully will to help take the edge off a bit with some of those coaches that have come from athletes that are always holding themselves to a high standard. So
yeah, I want to just jump in here as well, because we kind of mentioned this a little bit earlier, and this kind of ties into, you know, the being a great athlete who then comes into coaching and having the expectation that you would be able to coach nearly up to that level that you compete at. Like, I don't know about you guys, when I started coaching, like I look back at it now, I was bad at it. Like I was a good athlete, but I was bad at it. It's like it's like any other skill. You have to put in the hours and you have to develop that skill. Like you get better the more you coach. And my advice would be to any new coaches, if you want to become a good coach quickly, don't volunteer yourself to go coach the level 4 team. Coach the level 1 team. Like the level 1 team where you have to be the cleanest team in the gym. You know, you have to make skills that are essentially a little bit maybe at times boring, look really interesting. And you have to be super, super creative. I know I'm going to give a little shout out here to Zodiac's All-Stars, because I know that every team in this country has seen Zodiacs, especially, you know, Zodiac Shadows, and we're like, wow, they're one of the best team in the world, but they do the lowest level of cheerleading. Like that's what's crazy about it, is they do the lowest level of cheerleading and their choreography is amazing. Like their stunts are amazing. It looks incredible. And level 1 is really the opportunity to build all those skills, because you have to be creative. You have to be really technically precise. And that's what's going to make you a better coach than going straight in and trying to coach, you know, those higher level teams where you can get away with just some flashy choreography. But really then you get the score sheet back and you're not hitting all the boxes. You're like, oh, but my routine looks great. At level 1, you're going to know really quickly whether you've done a good job or not. Like, it's not going to be a surprise. You're going to see the routine in the gym before it gets to comp, and you're going to be like, okay, I know if this is good or if this isn't good. So that would be my advice to any new coaches out there.
Yeah, definitely. I think as well, that transition from being an athlete in the gym to coaching in the same gym is maybe the most consistently sticky situation in cheerleading. It causes so many issues of trying to make that transition. I think it's so important that that's handled the right way, that, you know, it's, I saw someone call it recently the Peter Pan bubble, where, you know, you get athletes that have grown up in the same gym and then they're going on to coaching in that gym, but they've never been able to make that separation from being a kid to being an adult. So one of my biggest things is I always encourage people to get outside of their own bubble. Get outside.
Yes.
I'm not saying don't coach at the gym that you train for. Absolutely, show your loyalty, but take any opportunity you can to go and work in different places and learn to be professional.
Yes.
There's a lot of times just a difficulty with finding a professional role and separating that from your recreational role or your athlete role. That's something I've seen so many times is really difficult to manage.
I think real quick, just going into what you just said, I have to do it now because you said that. Find a mentor. Like, honestly, find a mentor. I didn't just wake up one day and realize that I was good at what I was doing. I also didn't learn that by going in and coaching with another coach. I spent every single day when I cheered in America doing nothing but cheerleading. I woke up, went for a run, did what I needed to do, went to the gym, did cheerleading all day. I didn't teach when I first moved to Top Gun either. I was also, before I moved out there, starting to become a coach. I was starting to get into that role, but that never necessarily meant when I moved over there that was going to happen. So every day from 2 till about 5, when I would start my cheerleading practice, all I would do is go into the gym and watch my coaches coach. I wouldn't coach with them. I'd sit there. And what that did for me, it showed me that, yes, I did know what I was talking about. Yes, I did have those aspects of that coaching thing and the thing that I was looking for within myself. But it really helped me take a step back and learn how other people and the people that I aspired to be did things, and not in an environment where I was at the same level as them and coaching with them, but where I could really just take a step back and see how they would solve problems, how they would react to certain situations. And like you said, being professional, we all know how I am sometimes, and I didn't just learn professionalism overnight. It really did take the time and
it took you a while.
But yeah, like you said, getting out of your own gym and it being exposed to different situations that you're not necessarily used to. Like I came to you in World Cup with Jose, and for the most part, I just sat back and was watching the choreography happen and the magic take place. Because for me, realizing that I am not the most important person in the room was really what helps me learn the most, is taking that step back, again, that humbleness, and seeing the masters do what they do and being able to just sit there and take notes and record and take in and become a sponge. So tying in all those things that we've just said, you can really round yourself out to be not just a great coach, not just a great choreographer, but a great person to learn from on top of everything else as well. And hopefully one day, the way that I looked at my coaches and the way that I sat there and aspired to be like those people, I can hopefully instill in the kids that I get to work with all the time as well. So that should hopefully round up what we were just getting at.
Yeah, amen to that.
Okay, so let's move along. So I opened up on Instagram for any questions that anyone wants to put at us. So we're going to rattle through these as quickly as we can, because we got a few. Had some really great questions, and I want to make sure we get to them all. So some of them I've given you a heads up on. Some of them are a little more serious than others. Some of them you're getting live. So we'll see how we go. Okay, question number 1. Should be simple enough. We'll start you off gently. This came from Maddie, I believe. What is your favorite part of a routine? Mason.
easily dance choreography. Especially when you have that snowball effect of the routine just getting better and better and better and better. I mean, you get to the run and tumbling section, everyone's like, do not put your hands down, land, don't flip, just land on your feet. And then you get to that last person lands and everyone just pops off. That is my favorite thing. And as a coach and a choreographer, to be able to give that to a team or a program is just like the icing on the cake for me. I love doing stunt choreo, stunt creativity, stunt choreography, but then my next best thing is definitely dance. And so for me, icing on the cake. Especially, I love when, do you know when you delete an iPhone app and the iPhones, the app shake really quick? When those athletes hit that ending pose and stuff start bouncing, I am like, yes. And so, yeah, no doubt about it. Dance choreography is my favorite thing. 100%.
All right, Mike.
See, I'm not. I get that whole point. Dance is not like my natural thing. So for me, it's really, it depends on the structure of your routine. But like, I'm a pyramid kind of guy. Because if you're, and this is kind of a double-edged sword here, because if you have a good routine up to that pyramid is when your whole team comes together. And so that's like your moment where you really, and if you've had a good routine, it's great. Like you get to that pyramid and you're like, okay, we're in. Like we need to count, like we're in it as a team. If you've not had such a good routine, sometimes it's a little bit hard, but it's still an opportunity to come together as a team in that moment. And like, okay, like we've not had the best routine up till now, but like we got to pull this together as a team and do this thing. So for me, that's like that moment where I'm one of those people where the minute that music starts, like it's a blur. Like whilst I'm doing it, it's just muscle memory. Like I don't even know what's happened until I get to that pyramid. And I'm like, oh, whoa, like we're in this routine. Where did the last, minute and a half just go? And so that's like that moment. And when you hit that pyramid, particularly after a good routine, like it's amazing. It's an amazing feeling. And then I have a little panic because I got to go do dance. I'm like, oh, I got to remember the dance choreography. Whoops. But, no, it's, for me, I really do love that pyramid. And it's heartbreaking when it goes wrong. But every time you get to it, it's like a really good opportunity to like shout for your team because they're going to hear you. And really kind of pull everyone together. So that's my favorite moment, really.
Like it. I'm trying to think what mine like.
Yeah, what's yours?
As an athlete, I'm trying to think back to the
last count of
the long way back to think.
Straight off the floor again.
No, well, actually, my favorite part. It's not really part of the routine. My favorite part of the whole thing is those 5 minutes backstage before you go on the floor, which always. Yeah, staggers everybody. But for me, that like, I love just getting in the zone like that. You guys didn't really know me as an athlete, I think, but I'm a focused, scary guy. I'm going to take your head off. It looks like when I'm backstage. And I love that because it's just all of that like emotion and that sort of anxiety and all that energy. That's what I miss, weirdly. Like that's just the real high before you go on the floor. Because like you say, once you get on the floor, it's like autopilot. It just sort of happens. But that's the moment I can just remember stood backstage, like in that zone. So that's, yeah. And then, but other than that, yeah, the transition, this is my other favorite part of the routine. The transition out of either stunts or pyramid. When you've just hit the stunt or you've just hit the pyramid and you come out of it walking, you're like, yeah. Wherever you're going, that's the moment right there. Everything else, just whatever. Okay. Here we go. We couldn't, you knew we weren't going to get away without any Top Gun questions. I know we want to stop being Top Gun and start being Mason Hamilton, but this is like all for you because I don't even know if I can answer this. All-time favorite Top Gun uniform.
Ooh. Is this like one that I've worn or one that
anything you want? I think I don't know.
I'm gonna get punched for whatever decision I decide to make with this. I'm sure. Okay, this is a hard one. I'm gonna just go with it and just hope that nobody from the actual team sees it. Okay, so either Top Gun Lady Jags 2018, the uniform they won Worlds in, so their black high sock rebel uniform, definitely, or my my 2015 World uniform. Now, that was a GK uniform, and it was the heaviest thing I have ever worn in my entire life. But let me tell you that when we were at the baseball field and I had to double and I thought the wind was going to blow me away, I just praised the Lord that I landed on my feet because of that GK uniform being a tad little bit heavier.
You can tell you obviously didn't wear the Unity Year 1 uniform, which I don't know who made it, but I swear that thing was made of chainmail. Like, that was solid. It was like thermal lined or something. It probably would have taken a bullet, I think.
No, but speaking of Unity uniforms, I did have to, my first year on black in 2014, I did actually have to, for the entire season, if you go and check out my Instagram and scroll down, you'll probably see it. I had to get masking tape and duct tape and wrap it around my waist and my
You were probably wearing my trousers.
Probably. I was probably, those trousers have probably gone in a circle around all three of us, to be honest.
I don't know where that uniform ended up. I don't have my original uniform. I had to give it back for somebody else to wear. So maybe you ended up wearing it. I'd love to have it.
So yeah, I think definitely those two uniforms are one of my all-time favorites. However, 005's uniform from this year, their Miami Heat uniform. It's kind of,
I like the Miami Vice theme. I'm not sure I love the uniform, but I love the color choice.
Yeah, it just goes against the grain. Obviously, I love the fact, and I love the thing. If we're going to talk about uniforms real quick, I love that little.
Don't get too deep on this.
That little bit of pop of color away from your own program styled colors. Like, I know California All Stars are the biggest ones for it. They love to go out with their colored, like Smoed, all their other Black Ops. They have got that orange color. I know Unity All Stars, they definitely do.
I remember when we first did it with Omni, breaking away, and you did the gunmetal gray uniform.
I love
black. And that
was
uniform
the first time anyone ever did that.
And now Odyssey picked it up and they're doing the same thing.
Everyone, the trend has gone around of that grey colour now, and I absolutely love it.
But it's such a nice base colour. How are we sat here talking about uniforms?
I don't know.
I know.
Favourite Top Gun uniform?
I'm just glad that's the only Top Gun question we've got going on, because now we could... now I don't have to get any messages from anyone being like, why did you say that?
That wasn't too bad.
That wasn't bad at all. And it's definitely crashed.
I'm still here. I just got to change the camera battery. Don't worry.
Okay.
Oh, there we go.
Keep talking.
Yeah, I was going to wait. I'm trying to think now. Outside of... I'm trying to think what other uniforms.
I really like the 00 one this year. I think it's one of my favorites I've seen.
Well, it is a Rebel uniform, and my first 005 uniform. No, I'm lying. My first 005 uniform was the white one. It was one of the first ever Rebel uniforms to get made. That was heavier than the GK one. To the point where he's back. But my second 005 uniform, the one that I wore at Worlds, that's similar to the same material that the new 001 is made out of. And let me tell you, it feels like you're wearing nothing. Like, it feels like you've got nothing on. I remember going from... Is
that what you really want when you're on the floor?
Well, that I know. Well, that's what... Well, do you know what? Going from day one to...
As long as it doesn't look like you're wearing nothing. It doesn't. That's my concern here.
Let me tell you, when you've got eyes that you have to wear sunglasses because of how bright the uniform is, because of all the crystals and diamantes on it. But I went from day one to day two at NCA in 2016. I wore my heavy uniform day one, and then my light uniform day two. And trying to tumble and trying to feel the tumbling was, honestly, I think I did a whip full on one of the days, because I was like, this doesn't feel the same as it did yesterday. And I was like, I'm not doing it. So it's weird how uniforms can, and do you know what? How uniforms and shoes can affect your performance. And do you not remember, and you probably won't remember because you blocked it all out, but do you not remember I had to compete in 2017? Or do you not remember I left my cheer shoes at Top Gun Orlando, and I had to go and get Andy Smith's shoes to compete in. I competed in a pair of shoes at Worlds both days that I'd never worn in my entire life, and it was the weirdest thing I've ever done, like ever.
Shoes make a big. I think shoes make a big difference, more than uniform for me. Shoes make a big difference. I love those. I love the Infinity Titans, the high top ones. Like, I had the original ones, but I loved them. I loved the look, but then when I would tumble, not such a good result for me. Like, and I had to compete in them for like 2 years. And I only realized that life could be easier in a different pair of shoes when I changed gym and had to wear a different pair of shoes when I went to uni.
Speaking of, look what I just found. I'm currently right there.
Yeah, see, I competed before the era of shoe sponsorship, so I
Right.
never got forced what I had to wear on my feet. So yeah, once you find a pair of shoes, see, I never got on very well with Infinities.
Okay.
I destroyed them in about 10 minutes because I'm not
Hey,
those V-Rows, or I can't remember what they used. No Limit, they used to be.
they are slick.
I loved those. Those are my shoes.
I would never wear another pair of cheerleading shoes if I didn't never have to in my entire. This is my first ever.
I mean, you don't have to anymore, just so you know. So
I don't actually. Yeah, I know. Actually, speaking of, but this is my first ever pair of black and whites. That actually, surprisingly, aren't as bad as I thought they were going to be. However,
they're in pretty good condition.
they are actually really. I'm never going to put them on again. Let's be honest. But yeah, these bad boys, best things I've ever worn, and if I could recommend to any gym, No Limits, 100% the way to go. Yeah.
I don't know if they even exist anymore, do they?
I don't think so. You know.
But I always liked them because they were wide.
They were, yeah.
They
And
fit
you
my
know
feet.
what? The tongue of the shoe, I cannot believe we're talking about cheerleading shoes right now. The tongue of the shoe is the biggest thing for me. When I wore any other high top shoe, I always found that when I landed my tumbling, I felt that my ankles were kind of at the front of my ankle. My plantar flexion was like really weird. Whereas with these, I feel like way more stable just around the top of my ankle area. I also found, not even just with these ones, with the low top version, that the Flyer's ankles are a lot more stable in these shoes compared to like anything else that I've really used. You know, you get like gangly ankles with Flyers that don't know how to squeeze their heel stretch. That kind of gets fixed on its own with this shoe because it makes everything go in line. So yeah, there's a little pro. Look at me with my 20% off discount for use code Mason.
Yeah, maybe we can get sponsored if we talk enough about shoes. Maybe we'll
maybe.
This could be a new opportunity. It'll surprise you not at all to know that I don't have a favorite top. I'm not a uniform guy, so
you probably don't know what uniform.
Barely remember anybody's uniform. I like a classy uniform, so I don't like the ones that show, that tart up the girls too much. So nice plain ones.
Yeah, nice plain. A good Georgia All Stars uniform. A good full top.
All of that.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
A lot of coverage, athletic style. My favorite that no one will ever agree with me on. I'm just, like I say, I'm just not a uniform guy. I design a mean uniform, actually.
I was going to say, you've got some good, I've seen them.
I do, yeah. But the ones what I really like is the NCATA, the college stunt uniforms.
I knew you were going to say that already.
Shorts, all about it. Look like we're doing a sport. Anyway, we won't linger on that too long.
Yeah, we'll be here forever.
Okay, let's see where we're going with this. All right, we'll try and keep this really quick because it's something I keep covering, but the question keeps coming. Any good level 2 tumbling drills to do at home with little space? Let me say at this point, I have done whole videos on this for YouTube, and Chloe last week when we interviewed talked a lot about this stuff. So there's some good stuff out there, but if you could each pick one, you don't even have to show it if you want to describe it. What would you suggest for a level 2 athlete training at home tumbling? Michael, we'll go to you first. Mason really wants
just to reiterate what Ant said, if you guys are stuck for drills, there are so many people out there right now within the UK alone. You don't even need to look at like other coaches necessarily. Within the UK, Ant's posted videos, I post videos every once in a while to do with drills. Obviously, there's people out there like Bear Drills, shout out, Chloe, obviously Big G posts all the time, and then there's numerous other people beyond that, just to name a few. So there's lots out there. Get on Instagram, have a little look. You will be able to find them. I have a favorite drill, and it's a little bit of a weird one, but I've been teaching it with a lot of different, in a lot of different sessions that I've been doing. So I'm not going to demonstrate it for you guys, but I'll try and talk you through it. What I do is I like the athletes to go into like a tabletop position or a crab position. So arms behind them and feet lifting their hips off. And then what I ask them to do, I get them to warm up by going into a bridge, just one arm at a time. And then the actual drill is that they have to go from their tabletop or crab position into a bridge, moving both arms at the same time. So they have to literally, right? And the face Ant made is the face that every
It's,
athlete.
it's an
when they look
interesting
at
one
me.
to see happen.
I can only just imagine people's arms falling off.
Well, no. Now here's the
It's
thing.
really
So
good for mental blocks. Really
it
good for mental
is
blocks.
absolutely. Mason's absolutely right. So
I don't know
it
this
helps
one. I've
us
never
with-
come across this, so I'm learning right now.
I would
So
say I
it
would
helps
show
us
it
with
to
two
you,
things.
but
So it's not. I think what a lot of athletes think is when they do this drill, they think that they need to have weight on their hands, and it's not really a strength drill. It's an arm speed drill to get us. It's like a progression. Walkovers are slow and controlled. Flicks are fast. This is in between. So it's a kind of middle speed between the two. So one, you can kind of start to push the weight into your feet as an athlete. So it takes the weight off your hands, and then you just swing back into that bridge position. So it really gets us thinking about moving those arms a bit quicker, coming from the walkover to the flick. It
Oh,
starts.
so you're actually like popping up. You're not just
yeah,
contorting.
No.
Oh, okay. See, I was thinking you were like
No.
turning your shoulders
It's not like a
inside out.
dislocate shoulder thing.
Okay,
It's
that
like your arms are back and you swing them around.
yeah. You go
and catch.
in like imagine me in a bridge right now. Like
in the
do
tabletop.
it. Do it.
I can first of all, I get my kids to do this drill, and they're like, that's one of them. That like Mason, you do it. I'm like, first of all, I can't get into a bridge. Never mind, hands off the ground from one position. But yeah, you just literally in this tabletop position here. Obviously, hips, shoulders, and knees in line.
So you're throwing the
push
hips up to get.
Yeah, push through
Yeah.
the hip. Keep obviously your chin in. We're not trying to turn into the exorcist and look down at the floor. And then just open up the shoulders. It is a really good drill for awareness. And like
It
Michael
is.
said, mental blocks as well. It really
Absolutely.
helps understanding of going to an inverted position without actually being stood 5-6 feet off the floor trying to fall back into a bridge. It's a really, really good drill. Really good.
So I mean, Mason's really just touched on it there. It's, you know, in terms of getting over the fear of jumping backwards, there's two elements that make that's you know, a back handspring really scary. Which is one, if you can do a really good walkover, or maybe even a back limber, like to increase in that much speed, jumping backwards is scary. And so this is a little progression where we can start focusing on that speed. And two, you're having to catch yourself quickly with your hands. So you know that you're going to be kind of strong enough to do that because you're swinging around, you're catching yourself in that inverted position. Really does help get over some of that fear of going backwards. So I absolutely love that drill. That's one of my favorite drills that I've been doing with loads of teams, and it's just like a fun one to try. Plus, you're not that far off the floor, so you're not really going to get hurt.
Do you demonstrate this drill at all? I would be interested to see you do this one.
Absolutely. I'm old. I'm older than you, Mason. I am not flexible.
Got all the sofa cushions on the floor. The mattress is down.
Yeah. It takes me back to the days when I was trying to throw myself outside trying to learn a back handspring, dragging my mattress downstairs.
Right,
That's
exactly.
what I had to start doing.
Now you could presumably, I'm just thinking, like I say, I've never done this, so I'm learning live right now. You could maybe as an in-between, I'm just thinking because I'm stood next to a bed. I'm like, if you did sort of the half version on the bed,
yeah,
to build confidence as well, right?
You could even more so, that would be a great way to train how quick your hands reach from this position to behind your ears. Having something higher than the floor that you're actually using, like the bed, like you said, will really help train that arm speed. So why don't we do this? Why don't
Absolutely
you
not.
try it out? Or why don't we make it a challenge?
I'm really wondering. So I'm really wondering right now, and I've been saying this for weeks, how many kids after all this time in lockdown now have broken beds because of the drills involved them jumping onto them and doing all kinds of, there must be the bed people like Sleepy's, whoever makes beds must be doing great business.
Killing it. Absolutely killing it.
DFS. So there's these sofas, don't they? But whoever sells beds must be, you know, raking it in on the cheer world alone. All right, Mason, what you got?
My best level 2 drill, and you're going to think I'm just being a bit boring with this, but for me, again, it's about foundations of what you're doing. Mine is blocking technique. Especially, like Michael said, you're going from kind of stationary tumbling, more so when you're talking about back walkovers, hands and feet not leaving the ground at the same time. But when you get onto that level 2 skill, that back handspring, those front handsprings, those round offs that are connecting tumbling skills, you've really got to understand that blocking technique, because if you don't understand your blocking, it's going to be ridiculously hard to then translate that into higher level tumbling skills. I know we're not.
Just to clarify, by blocking, you mean snapping the feet through correctly and blocking off the hands.
Blocking through the hands specifically.
Just because not everybody you know is going to know.
Oh yeah, I'm going to show you specifically what I do in my class. Actually, it's really, really simple. I use it with my mini kids. Blocking technique, flicking through the floor. Is it called flocking in gymnastics? Is that what this is called? I'm sure someone's told me that.
I mean, somebody probably calls it that. Somebody calls
I've
it
heard that before.
Yeah. Honestly, when you've got things like stunts like waterfalls being called pancakes and McDonald's, Happy Meals.
Happy Meal.
Yeah.
That's a whole different question. Which stunt has the most different names?
I'm sure EMCA, I'm going to have to ask about this. I'm sure they call this a Happy Meal, like a waterfall. That's where I got that from.
I don't know. That's a, I don't know. Actually, that I remember that when that first kind of came in way back in the day. I'm going back in the day again. It might have been an Andrea Kuhlberg, actually, the Happy Meal, that stunt was called. And then it sort of got known as a yo-yo. I still hear that one sometimes.
Down,
and then, waterfall. Or I've heard every stunt under the sun called a suicide at some point, which is probably...
Yeah, honestly.
It's been called, I've heard it called a death dive and a death drop. Also, probably bad names for it. If
Definitely
you want to attempt it. But that one, has a ton of names. Anyway, sorry.
So blocking technique. If you can't bear weight in your hands, if you can also not get that snapped out of those handsprings, you're never going to be able to connect those tumbling skills. So it's just something really easy that you can do in a million different ways. Is focus on your blocking technique. Is this technique in the ground. Now, what I like to say for my athletes whenever I start this out, it came around with my minis and it works through your seniors, and I know it will stick with people as well. Tell my athletes to close their eyes. We put our elbows obviously behind our ears to make sure we're engaging shoulders. And all I do is tell them to close their eyes and imagine that their eyes are now on their wrists. And what I tell them to do, you're going to giggle at me for doing this. You're like, where's this going? Watch. Give your wrists. So give your new eyes. Give your new eyes. Eyelashes. Give your new eyes. What? Eyelashes. Give your new eyes. Eyelashes. Now, when you do that, I also want you to shrug your shoulders at the same time. Give your wrist. Eyelashes. And look what you have done now. Where you can start this out really simple for the tinies. They're learning how to squeeze. We're not learning how to bear weight. We're learning how to squeeze. Now, from there, you can do simple things. Take this to the wall. Bear weight into the wall. Take this onto the chair that you are on right here. Put yourself on your knees, hands on floor, and slowly but surely, this will become easy. Now, I challenge any coach out there to tell me where you don't do this in higher level 2 and above tumbling, because your answer will be absolutely everywhere. So from the youngest ages all the way through to my oldest ones, my favorite level 2 drill to do would be blocking techniques. You can do it in 1,000 different ways. You can do an entire hour class on it if you really want to.
Weirdly, what you just said actually made sense as well. I didn't know where you were going with putting my eyes
on.
I like it a lot.
I got it. Yeah, it made sense. It's like open your eyes, close. It's blinking, wrist blinking.
Yeah. So I mean that hopefully, please, like if anyone's got, I would love to learn another way. And another thing that I always love is analogies and things like that. Really help me learn and understand. I know it's stuff that sticks with me. Are the things that I'm always going to use. So if anyone out there has like got anything else, like any other analogies, like I know as a choreographer and as a coach, you guys have probably a million things that you say. So I would love to hear more things be taught in a way like that, instead of more so just being told, put your arms above your ears, you're gonna flick and block through your shoulders. For your mini kids, they will definitely enjoy doing this for an hour if they think that they've got eyes on their wrists. And even draw some eyes.
I like that a lot, Mason.
I was going to say, spend the first half of your class, some sellotape, make it a kind of creative session, draw some wrists on, and then spend a whole class doing it.
I think, you know what, that is an important point as well, because we come up with a lot of stuff sometimes. If you're teaching really young kids, you're like, okay, we're going to stand like a, I don't know, penguin,
flamingo.
Whatever. Yeah, you find these fun ways to describe it to a 6-year-old, but then you get an 11-year-old and you give them the full scientific lecture and you expect them to understand it. And there's nothing wrong with going, okay, let's make our Mickey Mouse ears before we do our backward roll. I do it with adults all the time, like, or be a stag. I don't know, well, not with the fingers, but
I found it's, you're absolutely right there, Ant, because that's something that I definitely was very much guilty of previously, where like you're coaching a young athlete, like a mini athlete, and you do dress it up and find a way to kind of make sense to them. And then you coach a slightly older athlete who's maybe a junior or like a very young senior, and immediately you just switch in the approach, and you're like, okay, now I'm going to tell you exactly why technically, physically, this is going to be the appropriate way. And they just look at you like, I don't understand what you mean. Whereas now I've more recently, in the last few years, I've started trying to use those analogies with almost everyone and just find something that works for everyone. Mason, I love that one you just said, one that, it really does make sense, and a really good way to describe it. And just for the coaches who end up watching this and listening, I just want to stress the importance of what Mason just addressed, which is that if you have athletes throwing back handsprings, it's so important in creating power in your round off. But from a safety point of view, if you have athletes throwing back handsprings and they don't understand that shrug, then every single time their arms hit the floor, you're going to either get a bend in the elbows like this, or because they're going to try, it's either going to be too heavy or they're going to try and bend and push, or if they lock their arms out but don't shrug, you're putting them at risk of injuring their elbows in particular. Possibly shoulders, more likely wrists and elbows. And I'm sure for you guys, both of you have seen some of those injuries happen in your time. Absolutely.
I could not have to ever splint
another elbow. I can't. So
I'm pretty happy about that.
Absolutely. So this shrug that Mason was talking about is honestly maybe the most fundamental thing that you should teach, because like you're essentially teaching an athlete, if you're teaching an athlete how to back handspring without knowing that, you're teaching an athlete how to dive into a pool without knowing how to swim. It's just not a safe thing to do.
And I think we all see that as well, like regularly coaches asking like, how do I fix this back handspring? And you see that same issue a lot of the time. And it's not easy. It takes repetitive work building body positioning in handstand. I mean, how quickly do we glide through handstands is one of the major problems we have in the sport, because we don't use it as a skill. We don't spend a lot of time teaching it. We go through it in line drills and stuff, but we don't develop a high level of proficiency. Most cheerleaders that can throw fulls and doubles can't hold a handstand.
Can I just jump in, because that actually ties in really well. I learned my first practice. I got off the plane, 14-hour plane journey to Miami. Got off my first practice expecting to die during that practice, expecting to be pushed to my absolute limit. And do you know what we did for the first 2 hours of my first practice with top row large co-ed? It was round offs and handstands for 2 hours. That is all we did. And that wasn't just because we were bad at them. We were some of the best athletes in the world. And yet Coach Victor at that time realized that in order to make us, especially for coaches or athletes that are looking for things like synchronization and uniformity, if you guys don't all have the same technique in the way that you're doing things, from the basics, when you're being asked to throw a round of back handspring tuck, a round of back handspring whip handspring layout, those technical skills are going to become so much harder if you don't understand the foundations of what are making those skills happen. So I know, and this is a big thing, because as soon as I do a Zoom class and say, guys, for the first 20 minutes, we're going to be doing handstands, the athletes end up looking at you like, what the heck are you talking about? Why are we doing this? We're too good for that. And by the end of that 20 minutes, not only do we start to see that realization that what those athletes were doing could have been worked on and improved, those athletes are then carrying what they've learned from that very basic thing that they do in every single skill. They then translate it into every single thing that they do within that class. So for me, it is always important, again, slow yourself down, take yourself back to that foundation.
Yeah, I've done whole classes recently just on handstand building skills. Like I'd love to do I could do a full week of Zoom class with one set of kids on handstands. Like I got enough stuff for that. I remember one of the most useful, like hard hitting home things I learned really on when I started coaching tumbling is somebody said, tumbling is just a bunch of handstands linked together in slightly different ways. Yeah. And I'm like, yes, you're right. Absolutely. Yeah. It's brilliant. Like you put it in simple terms like that. So it's the core building block. Almost everything we do, you can trace to 3 body positions. You've got that handstand straight hollow body position, you've got the arch or the bridge position, and you've got tuck. And even the tuck is just a bent leg hollow position.
Yeah.
That's really two shapes. So
everything from hip,
straight,
everything from hip to wrist is always passing through a handstand. If you think about it like that. Those higher level tumblers, you know, the ones that you see that just like, it looks like they're just bouncing on the floor. You see them go from full to whip to double to triple to double backs, and they're just transitioning through handstands. And that's where that fear factor, I'm so glad you said that, and because a lot of the time we see things as, especially when we go from layouts to fulls, that's the biggest thing that I see this in. It's always that, oh my God, I'm really nervous, I don't know where I am. All you're doing is a handstand with a twist involved. And when you break it down and you let that kid understand that it's not as difficult and it's not as crazy as what they're making it out to be, they can all do handstands and they're passing through one. And from there, you really see the breakdown of that understanding of the skill. So I'm really glad you said that. Really.
Well, I want to take it in particular, like, sorry, Mike, that's one I always talk about. Like, I think learning to twist, going from a layout to a full, is maybe the simplest physical adaptation, like physical jump in terms of
already there.
Maybe probably the biggest psychological, because you're introducing a whole new movement that you haven't experienced before.
Yeah.
But the actual physical difference is this. That's it. That's all you need to do.
Yeah.
It's not massive. Sorry, Mike.
No, absolutely fine. I was just going to say that, you know, we've obviously talked about the significance of the handstand in, you know, tumbling, and it is such a crucial part of it. And it's, you know, it's something that every athlete, no matter what level you are, should really practice and become proficient at. But it extends even beyond that. It's, you know, we're obviously seeing in cheerleading now, there's you know, a much more significant trend from maybe like your level 4 upwards of handstand stunts, where, you know, hand-in-hand stunts, not just inversion stunts, but actual hand-in-hand stunts, where, you know, it's something you see particularly with the American teams a lot, and obviously a lot of European teams who compete at those higher levels do a lot of hand-in-hand stunts. So as UK programs, it's something that we really need to be implementing, not just because of our tumbling, which it would help massively, but also for our stunting ability. And if we boil it down to the simplest thing, if your flyers can hold a handstand on their own consistently in that tight position, how much easier is it going to be for them to hold a tight position when they're stood upright? You know, just from a point of view.
Can I take that one step further?
Sure,
quickly.
To make it a bit more vague, you can make that actually a lot more generalized to anything. It will help blocking and a handstand, specifically this, won't just help the stunt as in a specific hand-in-hand or an inverted stunt. It helps an extension cradle. It helps an extension full around. It helps a high-to-high TikTok. All of those things, inverted or uninverted, having that foundational core strength, that wrist, elbow, shoulder, hip, and knee in line. If you can do that, you're translating your tumbling into your stunts and vice versa. You're making yourself a well-rounded athlete in all senses of what we do, not just specifically in a back handspring or specifically in a handstand. Being on your feet with someone over your head, this will get you a lot further than this. So yeah, just to make it a bit more vague and to realize how important it actually is, you can really put that same element into actually every single aspect of what we do, especially when you go to level 6 baskets, level 7 baskets, should I say?
Yes, absolutely.
Let's get off the tumbling, because we could do a whole other.
I could speak for days.
We'll schedule that for some other time. Okay, let's get through some more of these questions. Really quick fire. This should be fun. Your most embarrassing cheer fail.
Woo!
I wet myself and also busted at Future Cheer 2011 or 12, Bournemouth. I wet myself in my Arabian, and then I went for a double, and it's the first time I'd ever thrown a double, landed. You could probably find
I hope no one was stood close by.
I actually went over someone's head as I did this double, so I don't know what went on, like if there was any like transfer. You're in, but don't go because I know every single person that has ever thrown a skill for the first time at a competition has always had that relief of like, a bit of a trickle. Let me run to pyramid.
I have never had that.
Yeah,
I'm just going to say.
I hear a lot of girls. I've never heard of guys doing it.
You are all lying if you tell me that. You're lying. I'm still standing by it. Anyway, I wet myself and then I busted my pap. So like,
you need to work on your pelvic floor, mate, or something.
honest, I need to work on that core and that hip flex. I need to squeeze.
Michael, what do you got?
That's a pretty interesting one, mate. I mean, I've been doing cheer a long time, so I've had a bunch of moments. But I'm gonna go to the most recent one. So I can't remember what competition was. I think it was Future Cheer Spotlight. The last competition I did with Unity Black, right before lockdown. First, like, it was like one of the first competitions of the year, I think, that we did. Maybe the only competition we did that year. Yeah, I think it was the only competition we did that year. I, right at the beginning of the routine, had to do a standing tumble pass. I standing tumbled off the floor onto a little girl who was sat next to the floor. And obviously, this is right at the beginning of the routine. So, like, I didn't even have time to really check if she was okay. So I kind of just like, as I like landed on her like leg or something, really bad about it, off the floor, and like ran to my stunt like, sorry, and then got to my partner stunt and then proceeded to drop my partner stunt immediately after I had just tumbled onto a little girl. So that was like a really horrendous moment.
Nothing like
cheerleading career.
like something like that just kicks you out of the zone.
Yeah, exactly. And little girl, if you are listening, I am sorry. I'm not sure who you are, but my apologies.
We could honestly take a vote and see who on Instagram and see which one is more embarrassing.
If you are this little girl that Michael landed on and you've been traumatized by the event, please contact us.
Please don't sue me. I'm sorry.
Honestly,
he's just admitted abusing you live on air, so you know.
And what's yours? I know you've probably got a fair few.
What do you mean?
Have you
You've been around for a minute, Ant.
I know. I don't know. There's a few that stick. I have to say, like, without tooting my own horn, I was always pretty consistent as an athlete. I was very, partly because I was always pretty much an athlete and a coach at the same time. So if something was going in a routine for me, it was something I was 99.5% sure hit every time, because I did not want to mess up in front of other people watching. But I remember it because it sticks out for that reason, as just that classic overconfidence. One time I'd been working on adding an Arabian into my tumbling pass, and it was, I can't remember what competition it was. It was like a last competition of the season. It might have been the International All Levels, actually, the precursor to the summit.
Oh, wow.
But it was our local event. We were the only team in the division, so it didn't really matter. And I'm like, I'm going to try the Arabian. You know, just the worst possible thing you can do. I'm like, I've done it a few times in the gym. It was getting there. It certainly wasn't competition. If it was an athlete coming to me, then absolutely not. It's not ready. But me, I'm just like, I was coaching the team. I'm like, I said to one, I'm like, I'm going to try the Arabian 3. He's like, if you think you've got it. I did the world's best round off Arabian forward roll. I mean, it was mean. It didn't go anywhere. But I just remember coming out this roll and having to walk the rest of the way to the middle of the floor.
You started your pass with a level 4 pass and then finished it with a level 1.
Yeah, I mean, it was supposed to go nicely through to the full, obviously, and just, it didn't work out so well. Just totally overcooked it. Obviously, way too much adrenaline, over-rotated, had to forward roll out of it. I didn't splat on my face. I did a nice roll.
Nice.
Keep walking to the corner, waving and styling it out. But that's one I definitely remember. I'm fortunate. I think I can't think of too many times I really messed up.
I can think of too many, unfortunately.
Other people would probably be able to think of way more for me, I suspect.
Yeah, I actually have only ever dropped one stunt, really, and I'm not going to talk about which one it was, but yeah, I
feel like your story is like mine, actually, on this one.
Pretty much, yeah. That was an interesting one, but yeah, I like to think I'm pretty consistent, or more so, I know that I'm going to be good. Like whatever I'm doing, I know that I'm going to land it. I would never throw a skill that I wasn't like. I don't even throw skill. I've had the same passes for the past like 7 years. I'm one a man of like, I know what I'm doing and I'm going to leave it at that. I do not promote that to athletes. But I'm just old now, and once you know what you're doing, old dogs, no new tricks. Is for me. That's the saying.
Okay, interesting one, and we're gonna tread lightly around this. Just a question from a coach / athlete, I think. What diet do you think an elite athlete should follow. So I should sort of preface this by saying this is not fair scope of practice for us as cheer coaches. If you want specific advice on what to eat or what not to eat, you need to see a registered dietitian or a nutritionist who is qualified. We are not qualified to give out diet advice. So I think really the general advice we should give here is you follow a healthy diet.
Yes.
Whatever healthy means to you is, you know, sort of something you got to figure out for yourself. But I think the message, without, you know, maybe I'll just answer this for everyone. You know, the message is the important thing is you should definitely be thinking about nutrition as an athlete. I think we fall into this trap with cheerleading a lot of not necessarily taking ourselves seriously enough as a sport. And we go, yay, we show up and we practice twice a week. Without, if you want to be an elite level and you want your body to survive what is a very high impact sport, you need to be thinking about nutrition, what you're eating healthily, and conditioning outside of what you just do in training, and recovery and sleep and, you know, psychology and all these other things. I think it just raises that as an important thing. I don't know whether you guys want to throw anything else in there.
Yeah, just more so the fact of like realizing that it is important to look after your body and do the right thing. I'm not here to tell anyone what the right or wrong thing is to do. Just being aware of what your body is feeling as well. I know that there's so many times that I would be like rushing from work to the gym. I'd be like you said, I'm not taking my sport or myself seriously, you know, to realize that I needed to eat something in order to not just survive the practice, but to actually function during it as well. I know for a lot of athletes, those pre-competition nerves when you're at a comp kick in and almost make you feel like, I'm not going to eat anything. I'm just going to have a Monster or a Red Bull and that will get me through it. But yeah, just knowing what to eat and the right way and things that work for you in order to be successful in the sport and be healthy in the sport as well is just the only real bit of advice I can get. Whatever you guys, advice you get from other people, any dietary dietitians or anything like that, it'd be the best advice I could give. However, I don't think I am anywhere near the right person to be asking about diets. So yeah.
Yeah, and just to tie in or round up on this, you know, everyone is different. So I mean, we are certainly not qualified to tell you, but neither is the average person. Like, it's important that you go and speak to someone who knows what they're talking about, seek actual advice, because your body will be different than the next person's. So you have to figure out what is good for you to, you know, succeed in this sport. And like Ant said, we do in cheerleading have a tendency, particularly in this country, to not take it as seriously as is necessary to really excel. You know, we want to be as good as, you know, the top teams in, you know, other countries, particularly, you know, America. But they take it very seriously. They take themselves very seriously and they train and look after their nutrition in the same way that an elite level athlete does. And in order to succeed and really progress and have longevity in your cheerleading career, nutrition is a big part of that. So it's well worth seeking the advice and kind of creating a plan that you can stick to.
I wish I could say I feel like all the kids in America are going to McDonald's for their nuggets after practice as well, to be honest. That raises
honestly, kids are kids. Like I used to finish practice, no matter if I was in England or in America. And there'd be those days where I'm like, do you know what? I want some chicken nuggets. I'm going to go get some chicken nuggets.
Well, cheerleaders and chicken nuggets is a very special relationship.
I call do you call your flyers chicken nuggets? I call my flyers chicken nuggets all the time. Like,
that's the nicer end of what I call them, yeah.
But yeah, guys, like as long as you're being healthy, as long as you're being aware of what you're doing and what you're eating, like this, you're just that's kind of it.
Yeah, I mean,
just being conscious.
I think when you're young, your body tends to be quite forgiving of a lot of things, but you find these things out as you get older.
Catches up with you. Let me tell you, it catches up with you. I never thought I'd see the day that I couldn't flip over my head, not land on my feet, and look what happened. Too many McDonald's it was. Let me tell you.
But yeah, we do have this issue of, you know, the things we're asking, you know, for us as coaches, the things we're asking our elite athletes to do is up there with what elite level gymnasts are doing. And they do 7 times the amount of conditioning hours that most cheerleaders do and everything else. And they're elite athletes in whatever sport have to think multi-dimensionally about their training, not just, okay, I'm going to meet with my coach to do what they tell me.
Yes.
You've got to think outside of that as well if you want, not just to reach your full potential, but to deal with the demands of the sport. You know, we constantly see chronic injury issues and health issues and things that develop from not necessarily giving full consideration to all of these things. Okay. See, where else do we need to go? Oh, quick one. This is another one I'm definitely not going to be able to answer. Your favorite 2019-20 cheer mix? I guess any year you possibly do. What's your favorite cheer mix at the moment?
Wait, I can go 19.
You'll have like 900 opinions on this now.
I can be specific.
I'm not a music guy either, especially not anymore. It all just sounds the same.
Is 1920 like, is that like,
I guess it's current routines, really. We don't have to be specific. Whatever, your favorite recent mix.
Okay, again, am I just biased? No, there's no way I can be. I'm not going to be. Brandon All-Star Senior Black 2019-20.
Always a good one, for sure. Always a good one.
Like, let me tell you, I could get up and if there was a routine, if I was being held ransom and I needed to mark and know a cheer mix from beginning to end, it would be any Brandon All-Stars routine. I would be on my feet and I would get out of that ransom straight away because
I'd probably be done for. My music wise, it's tough because I'm not really a music guy either, but I'm always a big fan of Senior Elite mixes. Every single year, I'm always a big fan of Senior Elite mixes.
You sing along to them too when the elite stunt happens. Are you one of those guys that's like screaming at the top of their lungs?
I'm not one of those guys. I'm not one of those guys. I'm not one of, but all my that I coach, particularly like my level 4 or 5 athletes, the minute I put that mix on, or any Senior Elite mix, the whole team just suddenly seems to be doing the routine on the floor. So I'm a big fan of the Senior Elite.
See, I wouldn't know one from the next. If the team's name wasn't in there, I wouldn't have a clue. I miss the days when we had real songs.
Still,
after that, I lost track of it.
Yeah, you could still know the name of the team and still not know what year. I'm sure I could
That's
play you a Shooting Stars mix and you'd be like, what year was that from? And I'd tell you what year that was from.
I'm always a sucker, obviously, to be a homer as well, I guess. I'm always a sucker for a Shooting Stars mix, but that's part of the whole theme and the performance. It doesn't necessarily mean that the music is wonderful. It usually is, but
I don't know if there's any questions on there, but can we make a pact not to talk about themed uniforms? Let's not talk about themed uniforms.
No, we're good. We're safe on that. I
don't want to get into it.
And we're about to get past music. Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah, I've totally lost track of music. SA Crush this year, just to be another homer. Really enjoyed our mix this year, so that's my current favorite. So
there you go.
The only one I'd recognise as well. That too. Okay. What have we got? One more question before we kind of wrap this up. And it did come specifically with the Mason comma at the Mason. Would you like to own your own gym one day? I think you could probably turn this back around.
Okay, interesting. Well, I basically already do now. I never actually thought I was going to get into a position where I wanted to ever coach or own a program. I, especially going off the back of constantly traveling internationally and nationally, I always found that at a younger age, I was really good at going into a gym, working my magic, and then leaving and piecing out, going back and doing that same thing, and just kind of expanding myself throughout different locations instead of holding myself down to one. Luckily enough, though, that whole thing has changed. And since moving back to England, I was lucky enough to now take over Airborne All-Stars, where now I'm actually the head coach of the program. So this is a brand new experience for me and a new journey that I never thought I'd be going down. And it just ties back into kind of what we've been saying about all day. You can have one set journey that at one age you thought you were going to go down and the route that you were going to go down. You can do everything you can to try and get down that route, and something might happen that might completely just take you off that kind of little swerve. And for me, yeah, it's the best thing I've ever done. Having my own kids, having that responsibility and that ownership, has really taught me, and it's like what we said on the coaches chat the other day, patience. I've really, if anyone knows Mason Hamilton, they know patience is the furthest thing that I've ever had. And since owning a program, honestly, it's been the best thing for me. Really helped me ground myself, take that accountability and the responsibility. And I would never, now having a program, I could never not do it again. It's something that I absolutely love more than anything. So yeah, there's the answer to that. Who would have thought?
Mike, what about you? Any ambitions in that direction?
You know, it's tough to say. Like, it would definitely be cool to have a program of my own at some point in the future, potentially. But I think for me, I'm in a very advantageous position where I work very closely with the owners and directors of two fantastic programs that I love. So I have one, you know, I have Angels Dance Academy, who most people will know for Dark Angels, their dance group. And I've been with them for a really, really long time. And I've kind of progressed to a point where, you know, I work alongside the director, you know, side by side, essentially. So I do quite a lot within that program. And then I also have a fantastic opportunity working with GCA, where I coach a lot of the majority of their tumbling, and the two higher level teams, our level 4 and 5 team, along with the mini level 1. And so I have a lot of responsibility with those gyms already. And I feel like those kids are, you know, my athletes as well. So it's not like I just work for these programs and I go home and that's it. Like, I am deeply invested in the well-being of the gym. And I have quite a lot of responsibility with both. So at this moment in time, I'm really happy with that. And I kind of get everything I need from that. So whether at some point in the future, I do kind of undertake, you know, just having my own program or not, I would, you know, you never know what's going to happen, but I love the involvement I have with both those programs, and my position there. And I would still love to stay involved with them, even if that was the case. So yeah, that's not really an answer, but there you go.
Yeah, I think I'm glad you said that, because it's kind of really touched on something there, and it's about not being, don't try and force yourself to be ready for something that you're not ready to do. I know that athletes are like, one day I want to own a gym, one day I want to do this. I wasn't that person, but since owning one, I've honestly, it came at the right time. It came in the right part of my life and my journey. And for me, I've experienced everything that I want to experience in cheerleading, just as an athlete and as a choreographer. There's so many more opportunities and doors to be open for me, but owning a gym came at a point where I was ready to finally do that. And I know for a lot of younger athletes, it's like, let's stop being an athlete, let's go and be a coach for a year. Okay, now I'm ready to open my own program. For some people, they definitely have the facilities and the environment to do that in. But really, one thing that I can just stress is, don't do something until you know 100% that you're ready to do it, because you might be doing it too soon in your career. You might be just needing an extra year or so. I know there's been so many times in my career where I wish I would have taken a step back or not jumped in so soon into the deep end. And for me, I know that owning the gym right now has come right at the perfect time. So trust the process is one thing that I really say with things like that, is don't try and jump the gun. Don't try and push yourself where you need to be too soon, because you'll just end up burning yourself out, and you want to be in this forever. Especially with me, I'm someone that I knew that I wanted to be a cheerleader forever, or involved in cheerleading forever. If I tried to own a gym at the age of 20 years old, then God knows what would have happened. I definitely wouldn't be here doing this right now.
Yeah, having known you at 20 years old, I can't see that necessarily of being the most instantly successful venture.
Yeah, definitely not.
But you're right.
And
It's a tough thing.
There's a million different paths. Lots of people want to be coaches, but there's vendors, there's event producers, there's uniform designers. There's a million things you can go down, as well as just being a coach or a choreographer or an assistant coach. So set the bar high, but also set the bar in different areas, because you can be great at a whole bunch of different things. Then once you become a coach, once you become a gym owner, you won't just have to struggle that thing of, oh, now I need someone to do my admin, or now I need someone to help me with uniforms or choreo. So,
I think it's a bit of a golden goose for a lot of people. You know, they think they get into coaching and they love the sport and whatever, and they're like, I want my own program so I can do everything my own way, which, you know, has its merits. But I mean, it is tough running a gym. You know,
and I'm still learning now.
For several years.
Yeah, I'm a year in, and the people that I'm going to teach now all have years and years of ownership of gyms experience over me. And for me, I've done everything I need to do within coaching choreography, but now becoming a gym owner is something that is brand new to me. And even still to this day, I've still got so much more to learn. And just seeing the way that coaches run their programs when I go in and do choreography is something that really helped me understand how to run my gym the right way, and the routes to go down, and things to the do's and don'ts, and the yes and the no's and the maybes. So again, exposure. Go and see the gym down the road. Go and see what they're like, and go see how their owner runs things.
I think you've got to have the right motivation behind it as well, because that's the other thing. If you're going in, if your reason for starting a program is that, or taking over a program, you know, whatever the situation is that you want to be able to do things your own way. That's not necessarily the cleanest.
Or show off how good you are as well. Yeah, that's a good thing.
Yeah,
you don't open a gym if you just want to show off how good you are.
This is the thing. There are so many different motivations, aren't there? And obviously, we've all had the privileged opportunity of being able to go and see many other gyms and see how things are done there, see how what their setups like, and you know, there are so many different ways that people run their gym. Some people run a gym more like a business. Some people run a gym more just for the benefit of the athletes without caring so much about the money. Neither of those things is wrong. But it's, you know, when you getting into that, you've got to figure out what's right for your gym, what's right for you, what's right for your athletes, what's the best fit. And for me, I'm kind of just thankful at this moment in time I don't have to worry about that. So
there you go.
You know, there's no, it's just another thing that I just, you know, I have my choreography and camp business. That's where my main focus is. Mason, for you, like you just said, like it happened for you at the perfect time, where you're now ready to take on that responsibility and deal with all of that stuff, which is, and obviously you've done that, you know, before. So I think it is really about when you're ready. And there are gym owners in this country who have started that, you know, have been an athlete and then immediately gone and started their own gym and have created fantastic gyms. So that was the right time for them.
You've also got to have, of course, the right time, the right position, the right location, where there's
all of those things
as well. I know. I mean, it's something I've gotten asked a lot, because I think a lot of people were expecting me to go down that route. A lot of people are surprised that, you know, I haven't just started up and done my own thing. And for me, it's not something I'm really interested in doing. I managed to find a good balance. I really, after coming back from the States, I spent 4 years, 3 years particularly, really getting out and working all over the place and doing all this other stuff. And I started to miss that, having that root, that cheer family, if you like.
Yeah.
So I managed to, you know, get a good balance with that, you know, more recently with ICE and now with SA, just having that, you know, I still go and work all over the place and work with different teams. And I love that variety, but I still then have my kids to come.
Your kids, yeah.
Not my kids,
exactly.
their kids, but, you know, I have that route where I feel, you know, I'm coming into that environment, which is a great balance for me. So it doesn't always have to be about, you know, you need to own your own program and you need to.
Yeah, I know. I ended up owning my program
in the industry.
Yeah, I ended up owning, now taking over Airborne as head coach, literally just by going into the gym and doing what you guys do. Liverpool's only about 30-40 minutes away from me, and I've always had a great relationship with them. But I'm sure, like, open gyms that you guys have been to, like, they've always been around in my life. And yeah, just by going in, doing extra choreo or helping cover a coach's class when a coach can get there is just how I ended up getting into the position I'm in. Again, I didn't have it set in my journey or my eyesight, and somehow it still ended up being the right thing for me. So yeah, just keep your prospects open. I thought I said the wrong word there. Yeah, that's kind of
all right. We're going to wrap it up because we've been talking a long time, and this is going to take so long to upload to YouTube that I might need a couple of days to do it.
Good luck editing this.
So, I mean, we were going to do a little physical challenge, but I'm going to let you guys off, and we're going to do that another time. I'm not letting you off completely. I'm just going to from doing it now. We'll do that. We'll set that up another time. I think it'll be fun and people don't have to listen to us any longer. But thank you so much for your time today and everything. I mean, we could keep talking all day, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been fun, guys. It's been real fun.
Give us quickly, before you go, where people can find you online, socials, all of that good stuff.
I sound so professional right now. I actually don't have any form of cultural choreography.
Good,
platform.
That's fine. Nobody needs to book Mason. Okay,
well,
right.
But you can always.
If you're looking for Mason, you can come to me. That's fine. I'll take the work.
Next _level _cheer if you need Mason.
Yeah, come to me if you need me for anything else outside of cheerleading. Come to me, I'm your man. No, I'm kidding. Reach me at Mason Hamilton, Mason R Hamilton. Just search my name, you'll probably find it. Always there to help. Always love a collab with another choreographer or coach, and I'm always loving anyone's new advice, any top tips. So guys, as much as I can help you out, help each other. Let's see what we can do in this next couple of months of lockdown. So that's where you can reach me if you need me. That's
cool. Michael.
Yeah, absolutely. You can find me basically on Facebook or Instagram at Max Out Cheer and Tumble on Instagram or Facebook. And you can also email me at maxoutcheer and maxoutcheerandtumble@gmail.com. Sorry. And yeah, like Mason said, and I know Ant is very much the same, like you can really contact us with any questions. You know, we're always happy to help. I get messages from people sometimes just asking me like, oh, well, what drills can I do, you know, to help with this or blah, blah, blah. And I'm always happy to help. I know these guys are always happy to help, have a conversation, or you can even contact me about things like, oh, well, I've got an athlete who's in this position and they've got maybe a little bit of a, you know, their approach is a little bit wrong for this reason, or I'm struggling with it. And I'm happy to give you my advice on that as well. I'm happy to talk about anything and everything, whatever I can do to help. So please don't be afraid to ever drop me a message if you need me. And that's where you can also find me for bookings. So yeah, search me there.
Just a disclaimer though, I work and it's the exact same way. I work at unconventional times, so if you get a message or a response at 4 o'clock in the morning, don't think I'm a weirdo, guys.
Yeah, I'm very bad for that too, so my apologies.
Yeah, but yeah, it's been great.
I think one of the things that's good, you know, obviously the reason we can, as you know, 3 guys are competitors effectively in the industry, we can connect on something like this, and we love doing this stuff, is because I think you guys will agree we're all about building everybody up to get stronger together. You know, it's not about knocking other people out and being competitive. You know, we're all about, especially right now with everything going on, helping everybody to grow. And you know, the more, you know, my philosophy has always been, the more the industry in the country grows and the more everybody else improves, the better it is for me as a business person and for everybody else. So we're all about helping everybody grow and survive right now and prosper. So
yeah, and I mean, just to jump in on that quickly, not to take up too much more time, but like and this is just what I want to say to everyone who does any camps or choreography, anything like that. There's enough out there for everyone. Like there really is. In this country alone, you know, cheer is growing so fast in this country. You know, Ant, Mason, myself, we're very busy, like all the time, which just shows. And we don't, you know, there's crossover, but there's a lot of teams that we don't cross over with, where we'll work with one team, Mason works with another team, Ant works with another team. There's a lot out there. So we can help each other and promote each other and, you know, collab and stuff. Ant has come and worked with my teams before. Mason has come and done work with on Zoom with my teams before. Yeah, so you worked with my uni team the other day. And that's great. Like I love that. And I definitely would always, you know, promote these guys and other camp providers and stuff, because it's really great to help build the industry. So any opportunity.
That's something as well that people get. Some people get a little cagey about sometimes. Like I'll go somewhere and they don't want to say that Mason was there the week before. I'm like, dude, I don't care.
I don't care. Like,
work with different people. Absolutely.
I'm even more so. You let me know what they worked on, and I can either expand and go further deeper into that, or I can give you something completely different. Like I'm all for it. Listen, get me in at the same time at you. I love working with people.
We'll do that. We'll do a package deal. You have all three of us.
No way. Look at that. Look at what?
That would be
Nothing
fun,
would
wouldn't it?
happen because we just talk about tumbling the entire
We'd just be sat there talking into it. Yeah. Guys, it's been an absolute pleasure to
Yeah, it's been real fun, guys.
Yeah, thank you guys so much.
And thank you for setting this up.
Pleasure.
Yeah.
We'll definitely try and get more stuff going. I'm all about creating everything we can for everyone out there at the moment, helping people out. So thank you so much for your input. And yeah, we'll call it a day there.
Right.
All right.
We'll see everyone soon. All right.
Yeah, we will.
Wow.
Well, guys, look after yourselves, and I will hopefully see you both again soon.
Stay safe. Keep working hard.
Yeah. See you later then, guys.
All right. Take care, guys.
In a bit, guys.